Hi everyone, Jeremy here. I originally planned to have my last video about PGR, but here we are. I don't really know what else to say besides that I just really love this game and I love the Mulder community. So I'd at least want to give back to everyone both new to the game or even old but wanting to get into Warzone by kind of making this. I don't know if this is going to be a mini series yet or if this is just going to be like a standalone video, but just a video focusing on PGR's Warzone mode. Warzone is my favorite mode that I've dumped countless hours on, and each of the Warzone videos I've uploaded throughout the years is basically a giant culmination of the information I want to share here in but not go like super crazy in depth, but at least the general surface level of things. The goal of this video is to get more people into Warzone and hopefully enjoy this game mode as much as I did. So let's get into it, starting from the basics, which is your team rotation. I'm not going to sit here and explain to you each team's rotation though. I want this video to be more of a general guide for, I guess we'll call it Warzone theory. Depending on your character investment and units available to you, team rotations do differ. For example, some people may not have Garnet and are using something like Arclight. Some people may not have Balter and they're using Crimson Abyss. Whatever it is, not every account is made the same and has access to all the units at a given investment. Another example is like SS Lamia users will use a solo Lamia rotation if they don't have the full SSS Dark swap team. So because of this, rotations will always vary. Learning how to optimize your team and learning how they function is probably the first step of many ways to optimize your Warzone run. Some things to keep in mind for a proper rotation for any team really is that your tank should ideally hit every single Warzone wave and mob to apply the tank passive and any additional shred from memories, QTE effects, and so forth. There are some exceptions to this, but they're pretty niche, and I'll try to cover more about this later. Do not waste time on units when they're out of resources, like having no orbs, matrix, QTEs, unless your team comp only enables solo unit gameplay. Swapping units in and out for fresh resources is always, well, I wouldn't say always, but generally, like right now in global, it's the best play that you can do. If your team allows for it, sorry. And also, rotations should be sustainable. This means that each swap in for a character should generally be as effective as their last. So units without DLT that are just swapping in and doing nothing sometimes may be a hindrance. After learning the proper rotation with a team and getting the rotation timings down, the next step is going through a full run using this rotation. If I were to compare this to something, I don't know if you guys know what sight reading is in music, but like when you look at music for the first time on trying to play it, it's pretty difficult, and I would say this is pretty similar to Warzone. As you go through your first Warzone run on a given zone, sometimes you, like in sight reading, you make notes of trouble sections. You want to make notes of waves that give you trouble. So don't try to, do anything fancy. When I say to make notes of the waves that give you trouble, I mean this in a lot of different ways. Like maybe you started on an awkward positioning on a wave because someone's ult took you across the screen, or core, or whatever. Maybe the wave has troublesome mobs that jump or run away. Maybe a wave has certain affixes like lightning strike or bombs that you need to be aware of. Or maybe a wave was left at half HP and you just blew like a big resource to finish that wave off when you didn't need to. This kind of leads into the second point, which is the general principle of Warzone, is you want to kill each wave with the least amount of resources possible. What I mean by this is that let's say you're on wave 8, and wave 8 has 100 HP left, and you're on a character whose ultimate does 1,000 damage. If I were to use my ultimate there, then it would deal 900 damage extra that could have been used on the next wave instead. It's basically just wasted damage and wasted resources. So your goal is to make sure that this never happens, and you want to try to kill each wave as efficiently as possible while still trying to be on time with your overall rotation. From here, it's just mostly about practice, experimenting, and micro adjustments to create a route that works for you. In a general scope, some micro adjustments you might do if a wave barely has any HP left without investing heavy resources might be something like adjusting your QTE timings on your non-tank character. And I say non-tank character because usually your tank QTE should be hitting every wave already in an ideal rotation, but not every wave needs an off-tank QTE to die. So I kind of want to take Dark Team as an example, since they're pretty straightforward. So like, let's say you're running the regular Dark Team, Lamia, Darren, and Capri. And let's say Darren bonks wave 1, but is slightly off a few points of damage from killing wave 2 cleanly with her ult. So adjusting QTE timings here might help a bit. So for the Dark Team rotation, you generally want to use Capri's QTE as early as possible on Darren so that it's up for Lamia's first rotation. So you want to try saving Lamia's QTE for wave 2 instead and see if that makes a difference. So it'd be Darren bonks wave 1, wave 2, you QTE Lamia there instead of QTEing Lamia on wave 1. You know, if this doesn't work, then the next thing might be to adjust your pet timings. So if you're using your Darren Cub skill on wave 1, maybe you try that to save that for wave 2. So wave 1 would be Karen bonk with Selena QTE, and then wave 2 would be Lamia QTE with the Cub skill. And if that doesn't work, then maybe you want to try holding your Capri QTE for the wave 2 and see if that makes a difference for Lamia's first rotation after Karen's rotation. So, besides these QT adjustments, pet usage adjustments, sometimes things could also just boil down to your character builds. So going back to Dark Team again, Capri builds can vary and give different results. Like, let's say you have a Capri that's built with 4 Seraphine, 2 Kadi, and it's hard mode with 2 Einstina. Einstina uptime is not 100% due to a brief cooldown and only applying to 1 wave at a time, so maybe the difference could be replacing it with a 2 times Guinevere Harmo instead, if your damage is good enough but you need more damage for subsequent waves on Lamia while not sacrificing Capri's damage as much. Or maybe you want to Harmo a 2 DV set instead if you want the longer duration attack buff than Guinevere on both Lamia and Darren while sacrificing a bit of Capri's damage. So there's a lot of things you can do. It's really just dependent on the situation. Not every situation is the same though. The last way to micro adjust is probably just through a character's kit. Depending on the character, almost every unit has a way of pushing damage that otherwise wouldn't be there in a standard rotation. So let's go back to Dark again. For Lamia, she technically has 3 ways to push out damage besides her regular rotation. The first is Lamia needing to tag in with 3 blue orbs. This one's a little bit RNG, but it does make a huge damage difference in my experience. Lamia can press her 3 blue orbs into her title orb into ult 1 at, if not the same, faster speeds than just going title orb into ult 1. Next is maybe instead of doing Lamia's 3x3 pings into ult 2, you could also consider doing like a 4x3 ping into ult 2 if it's super early in the zone and the extra orbs aren't needed for the last rotation yet on Lamia. The last way is why I said technically 3, but the last way can only be used once in a perfect run with Lamia, just because it's her dive ability that takes up quite a bit of time. But generally, you can fit one of these into every single run, assuming perfect rotation. Most people usually will put it at the end, but it's also reasonable to put it in the middle of the run if you need a wave to chain with Karen TE still on the field because she leaves behind like either Bathlon plus her that little field thing for Lamia during Lamia's rotation. Um, I know this sounds like a lot to learn, and I feel like I might be speaking like a foreign language to everyone here, but with enough practice and mold, you'll eventually get the feel of how things are supposed to go, and your sight reading or one taps of zones will be cleaner and cleaner, and the adjustments that you need to make for a close to perfect run become more apparent and easier to adjust to. Overall, I would like for people to, I guess, understand more that this mode is more it is it's very difficult, and I want people to appreciate how much time and effort getting a crazy run takes. And most importantly, I just want you guys to have fun doing this mode. I hope that this mode brings as much happiness and fulfillment to you as it did for me. While I might not be able to give tips for specific units and team comps later on due to me not playing anymore, I feel like general Warzone mechanics will most likely always stay the same. At least from what I've seen in CN up until this point, it's still pretty general, basic mechanics that people apply to each of their runs. But like I said in the beginning, though, I might make this into a mini series, but I'm not sure what else to talk about that's not like super specific for certain Warzone teams, since those will be changing quickly very soon. I was thinking that if you guys would be willing to, you could send me your Warzone runs, like any recordings, and I could do like videos where I have like commentary over the runs and saying like what things could have went better or what things didn't go really well, what you could work on, things like that. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, I hope everyone takes care, and I hope this video at least helped someone out there, or at least got you into trying Warzone a bit more. But that's it for me. See you guys.